The fifth installment in the Indiana Jones series, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, is finally available in theaters. And in this video today, I'm going to be ranking it amongst the 4 films that came before it, from my favorite to least favorite. Along with that, I'll be giving a brief explanation on why I ranked them where I did, so without further ado, let's get right into it. Starting at number 1, my absolute favorite Indiana Jones film is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Out of all the Indiana Jones movies, I think Last Crusade has both the strongest story and strongest characters. A big thing that makes me like this movie so much is actually Sean Connery as Indy's father, Henry Jones Sr. This character adds so much to the movie, not just with the story, but also for Indiana Jones himself. Having Harrison Ford interact with Sean Connery the whole time is one of the best parts of this movie. Along with that, I think it also has some really great action. I think they're after a really cool artifact. But yeah, overall, the thing that really makes this movie for me is that they didn't feel the need to have a female side companion to Indiana Jones this time around. But on to number 2, my second favorite Indiana Jones movie is Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. What can I say about Raiders of the Lost Ark that hasn't already been said? This is one of the most iconic action movies of all time. Without this movie, we wouldn't get the other Indiana Jones movies, so there's a certain level of respect you have to have for this movie if you do like Indiana Jones. I think it has a pretty interesting story to it. There's a cool artifact that they're after. Has some of the most iconic action scenes of all time, especially that boulder scene that I feel like everybody is aware of at this point. It has one of the best female characters in the entire Indiana Jones series, Marion. And all around, I think the movie is just pretty entertaining. So it's kind of inevitable that this movie would have ended up at least in my number 2 spot. I'm sure some of you are surprised that it wasn't in my number 1, but I don't think it has as strong of a story as Last Crusade. Coming in at number 3, my third favorite Indiana Jones film is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Out of at least the 3 first Indiana Jones films, this one has aged the worst. Not necessarily because of the visual effects, but because of certain depictions of certain groups of people, mainly when it comes to women and Indian people. But setting aside the at least borderline offensive stuff, this movie actually is pretty fun. I think a fair amount of the humor works in this film. I think a lot of the action works in this film, but the thing I like most about it is the introduction of Ke Kwan as Short Round. Now, it's kind of hard to tell if I would have felt the same way had I not watched Everything Everywhere All at Once or seen him win his Oscar. But at the same time, I feel like something about Short Round has always made me enjoy this movie more. It adds to the stakes because you don't want to see him get hurt. I feel like with his age, there's a little bit more stakes to it than there is for Indiana Jones or Willie in this movie. But yeah, Ke Kwan absolutely steals the show in this movie. He is the best part of this movie for me. He is the thing that saves it from being lower than any of the other films on this list. Coming in at number 4, we're getting into the movies that I really don't like, and that is Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Crystal Skull is overly indulgent with not so great CGI, unrealistic plot lines. Indiana Jones films in the past have had supernatural elements to them, but this one in particular just seems to go for so many of them. Maybe not just supernatural elements, but just elements to the action in general where you're like, Indiana Jones should be dead. But along with that, the pacing of this film is insanely fast, so when you're going from those action scenes to action scenes, there's really no time in between to process what just happened. The only positives I can say about this film is that it was good to see Marion and Indy reunite, and also that I felt the film was never dragging, I was never bored, I was just overwhelmed. Overall, I gotta say, Crystal Skull is not as bad as everybody makes it out to be, but hey, it's still not good. But coming in at number 5, my least favorite Indiana Jones film, obviously you've all guessed it at this point, it is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Now, the first time I watched this movie, I was like, yeah, at least it's better than Crystal Skull, I'll give it that. But the more I sat with the film, the less I liked it, the less I remembered. Dial of Destiny definitely drags a lot more than Crystal Skull. In fact, I would say it drags a lot more than a lot of the other films. It's also a lot heavier on the CGI. The CGI is better than Crystal Skull CGI, but at the same time, it doesn't mean much when the story really isn't that interesting. You really only get 2 returning characters in this movie, Indiana Jones and Sala, and that really didn't feel like enough. Especially when all the characters that they introduced for this movie really didn't feel all that interesting to me. But overall, the 2 biggest negatives I have for this movie is that it was underwhelming and that the ending was anticlimactic. At least with Crystal Skull, I was entertained. Yes, I was overwhelmed, but with this movie here, I was just kind of bored. I was definitely not having as much fun as I did with any of the other 4 films that came before. Overall, I'm pretty disappointed with the film, but if I had to say anything positive about it, it's that it was great to see Indiana Jones on the big screen again. But there you have it. There's my ranking of all 5 Indiana Jones films with Dial of Destiny included. I guess you guys can probably see why I didn't make a formal review for Dial of Destiny now. I just really didn't care for it and didn't want to spend the extra time talking about it. Don't get me wrong, I tried to make a review on it, but every time I tried, I just couldn't come up with enough to say, so this is the best compromise I came up with. But down in the comments below, let me know your ranking of all 5 Indiana Jones films. Please do not include any spoilers for the newest film down in the comments for the people that haven't seen it yet. But yeah, I'd love to see your guys' ranking of all 5 films, or really whatever comments you have for me. I would love to hear from you. I respond to as much as I can. But do me a favor and leave a like on this video, steal the subscribe button, and whip the notification bell so I can see you next time.